Hey there everybody. This is Aaron. Today is March 9th, 2013. And just so we make sure we have our numbers correct, I have been on testosterone for 281 days, which I guess is just over 9 months. And I had top surgery 263 days ago. So I'm primarily making a video today because I haven't made one in a while, and I know that for the guys that I'm following and that I followed at earlier points in my transition, new videos are very exciting and help me feel connected to people, and so I thought I would see if I had anything to say. So this past week was my 36th birthday, which makes me a perfect square for the first time in 11 years, though some people would argue I've always been pretty square. I was looking at some pictures of myself because I've been trying to take photos pretty regularly throughout my transition, and I put two pictures side by side of just my face from before I started T and earlier this week, and it's kind of crazy because I can really see the differences. I mean, I look more female in that early picture than I thought I looked at the time. And putting the two pictures next to each other, I look a lot more male now in the face, which is awesome, and I'm very happy about it. But the weird thing is that when I compare the two faces, the two pictures, I can't really say exactly what it is that makes them different. I put on a whole bunch of weight because I was losing weight, I was really depressed, and I wasn't eating. And I may get interrupted because I hear a small child puttering around the house. So I was down to 130 pounds, which was pretty light for me. And now I'm about 151, 152. I've been trying to put on weight. I've been lifting and trying to eat protein and stuff. So you can kind of see some of the difference you see in the two pictures is that 22-pound difference. But that's not it. There's other things, but I can't quite pin them down. I can't say, oh look, this is different, that is different. Just the face as a whole looks different. I also had a story to tell. So I think I'm being seen as male more and more consistently by new people who meet me. I can't be 100% sure, but it seems that if I'm introduced as Aaron, and with male pronouns, then new people seem to accept that. Though I can't really get in their heads and tell, and I don't really care that much at this point. But anyway, I had a fun experience where we had a bunch of people over for dinner, and everyone there had known me for quite a while, since before I was Aaron, except for one new person who was introduced to me as Aaron. And I think he accepted me as male. So anyway, so there were three pretty funny incidents with the thought of there being someone there who didn't know that I'm a trans guy, that I was a regular guy, cis guy, whatever. So one was that my wife said something from her past about other lesbians in the workplace, and I made a joke like, oh, I didn't know you were a lesbian, and then I said, no, I'm just kidding, I knew that when I married you, which is funny because my wife has said, you know, she wants to maintain the label of lesbian, and I said, I don't have a problem with that. You know, you can tell everyone you're a lesbian, and I can tell people I married a lesbian, and whatever. If that's a label you want to hold on to, I don't have a problem with that. But I was thinking, you know, our guests might have thought that that was a little funny. The second funny thing that happened that night is that my daughter went upstairs, put on her nightgown, and came back downstairs and informed the assembled guests. Well, primarily this one guest, showing off her nightgown and saying, this was my Abba's. This was mine. She calls me Abba. And I was a little embarrassed, and I was like, thanks a lot. But I wasn't like mad at her. I was just like, oh, that's kind of funny, you know, tell everyone to wear nightgowns. And our guest was like, oh, I guess maybe you were primed for an intervention. So that was funny. He was like, oh, when you, like, it seemed like what was in his head was like, oh, when you were a little boy, you wore nightgowns. Like, isn't that funny? So again, it wasn't like uncomfortable. It was funny. So the third thing that happened is that when our guest was out of the room, this one guest who didn't know, who had known me for very long, my daughter was holding a stuffed elephant, and she told some of our other guests, "This was my Abba's when he was a little girl," which is wording that I've used with her. Like, I'll show her a picture of me and I'll say, this was your Abba when he was a little girl, which I think is like accurate and funny and touching, but I wouldn't necessarily use that language with other people. I think it's funny for people who know me. It's funny if I'm in a situation where I'm out, basically. But my friends hadn't heard that before, and they were like, that's kind of an interesting sentence. And I'm like, yeah, it is an interesting sentence. I mean, I guess I could take issue. You know, I guess I'm not 100% sure if I would say I was ever a little girl. But that's kind of philosophical. I mean, at the time when I was, 5, I was trying to accept that I was a girl, and people were treating me as if I were a girl. So, on the one hand, it's accurate, and on the other hand, maybe I was never a little girl, and it's not accurate. But it's still a funny sentence. Let's see, what else is on my list? I guess I can show my chat. I don't think there's anything that has changed about it. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to put on weight. I'm trying to, lift and, build some muscle, but I don't think I'm actually being that successful. Mostly because I'm not really that interested in eating, and eating is an important part of building muscle. So, I don't know there's much to see. So it seems really dark. Oh, that's just me. So there it is. But I still have this, this thing where my nipples don't stick out at all, which I was expecting they would do, because in Dr. Garamoni's, everyone who Dr. Garamoni does, their nipples stick out. And I assume that my nipples are going to stick out, and they don't. And it turns out it's because Dr. Tholen uses a different technique called the star pattern or something, which is a little different from what Dr. Garamoni does with nipples. So I remain not super thrilled about that, but I don't really care. And I guess that's all I've got to say today. Oh, no, I did have something else to say. No, I didn't. I already said about how my face changed in the pictures, so I'm going to try to put a picture of that in the video. Which maybe I did, and maybe I didn't. We'll find out. Cheers.